Hey y'all, good morning. Today's morning devotion is from John chapter 18, verses 1 through 14, and this is where Jesus is arrested. So the people come, they cross over to the garden, the people come to arrest Jesus, and Jesus is like, "Who are you looking for?" And they say it, and he's like, "I am he," like, "I'm the person you're looking for," basically like handing himself over. And he's just really facing what's next face on or head on, right? He's not trying to get out of it. He is ready and willing to follow through with the purpose and plan of God that has been attached to his life and his time while he's here on earth. He's facing death and separation, yet he's facing it head on. He is not beating around the bush. He is not trying to prolong the inevitable. He is ready and he is willing. And even when Peter steps in to try to stop what's happening, Jesus actually scolds Peter. He's like, "Put your sword away. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we're doing." We see in this moment that Jesus is putting the fulfillment of God's will first. He's putting it above everything, his feelings, his emotions, what other people want, what other people thought, and he is accepting God's plan for his life. He puts God's will first no matter what. But I think sometimes we struggle with this. I struggle with this, putting God's will first, putting the fulfillment of God's plan and purpose for my life first above everything. And this is especially difficult when it conflicts with what I may prefer, right? Jesus may not have preferred to die or to go the way that he did, but he did. And he did not try to get out of what was before him. He did not try to let other people fight so that he wouldn't have to endure what was coming next. He understood what had to happen, and he was a willing participant in it all. God's will, it's not dependent upon or contingent upon our preferences, right? No, we align ourselves with the will of God, and God will give us everything that we need in order to persist, in order to make it through. It doesn't have to be our first choice. It should be our only choice. It doesn't have to be how we saw ourselves or how we saw our lives. We have to know and understand that God's will is supreme and his will is superior, and therefore we should put it first and come into alignment with that. We can't allow how we live to be set by our preferences. It needs to be set by God's purpose and plan for our life. So Jesus, he understands the will of God. He's not allowing anyone to hinder him from fulfilling it. That means he's not letting anyone else get in the way of what he knows has to happen, what he knows he's been called and purpose to do. And speaking for myself, sometimes I allow things to get in the way of what I know I should be currently doing. I allow myself to be distracted, or I allow for interruptions to take too long. I allow for there to be workarounds sometimes when I know God has told me something, but it's not necessarily what I prefer. Jesus, he didn't allow for any of that. He's not like, "Okay, you guys go ahead and fight and then we'll see what happens." He's like, "No, that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're doing." He doesn't allow anyone to get in the way of the fulfillment of God's will for his life. And I think it's important that we do the same. If we know the Lord's purpose for our life, then we should not allow people to interrupt that. We should not allow people to stop us from fulfilling that purpose. We should speak up and speak out about "Hey, no, this is not in alignment with what God has planned for me. So I'm just going to continue on with God's plan. I appreciate your thought. I appreciate your intention, but this is really taking me off course, right? This is taking me out of or off of the direction that God has for my life." And I think those are some conversations that probably need to be had, especially as we're figuring out and navigating what does purpose look like and what is God's plan and how does that unfold in my life. Jesus doesn't allow anything to interfere with his fulfillment of purpose, so neither should we. And let's face it head on. Let's ask God to strengthen us when we're afraid or when we are unwilling. Let's allow him to just reassure us of the bigger picture, the bigger why, and let's look forward into the eternal hope that we will have no matter what, because of our faith. So yeah, a lot to look forward to, but also like it calls on us to be bigger people, us to really stand on the word of God and to not be moved from what he shows us. You guys have a really good day, a great day today. Bye, y'all.